listening to the Flow Theory Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the latest episode of the Flow Theory Podcast. I am your host, Wade Peary, and boy, oh boy, am I jacked up to introduce our next guest. This man was one of the best all-purpose backs in Virginia football history. This man not only rushed for over 2,000 career yards in his Virginia career, but had over 1,000 receiving yards in his Virginia football career as well. All in all, he ended up with over 3,700 all-purpose yards for the Virginia Football Cavaliers. This man may have been small in stature, was an absolute ankle-breaking savage for the Virginia Cavaliers. Mr. Perry Jones, number 33 on the field, number 1 in our hearts. This man was the man they like to call Superman in Charlottesville. They say you don't spit in the wind and you don't tug on Superman's cape. Ha 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 ha.
Heard that one a few times.
Yeah, dude. I tell you what, that's one of my all-time favorite nicknames for any Virginia football player. I gotta admit, I'm interested to hear about that later on in the podcast. But the first thing, I really love talking to all the athletes that come on. One of the biggest parts about this podcast, I love talking to guys about their moments of flow and their moments of being in the zone. You know, Mike Vick in his documentary, he talks about how players were moving in slow motion, even though they were running at full speed. Do you have some moments from your career in the flow state that you can describe for us?
I mean, I guess just throughout the games, you know, I played in a bunch of different stadiums. Even playing in Scott Stadium when it's like, 40 or 50,000 people in the stands and I can't hear any of it. So I guess for me, that was my zone. It's just like blocking out all distractions, kind of zoning in on, the task at hand. And, that was, winning the football game and helping the team out as best I could. So I guess that was my zone. It's just, blocking out all the outside noise and just honing in on what I needed to do.
Did you ever have any sort of specific plays where things were moving in slow motion for you?
Yeah. I guess one of the biggest play that I can think about, which I'm sure you're probably going to ask me about, was the touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone against Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
And it's crazy because I played it in my mind before it even happened. Like I knew how exactly it was going to happen. I knew I was one-on-one with the outside linebacker. I was gonna, stick him inside and beat him to the edge and catch the ball and get hit by the safety. That's exactly how it played out. So that moment in time kind of slowed down for me. So yeah, that was a big catch in my career.
Dude, Perry, that catch was absolutely incredible. I mean, that ball. Watching that catch from the end zone camera to this day, that is one of the prettiest catches I've seen in Virginia football history. I mean, watching that spiral through the air, it was just a gorgeous ball by Rocco. And the fact that you had a couple steps on Nigel Bradham, who, by the way, was an incredible linebacker for Florida State. He was a monster, dude. And you got a couple steps on him to make that catch with Bradham and the safety converging at the same time, man. Once you made that catch, dude, I was like, here we go, man. We got a shot. I felt it. My buddy, I got a good friend that he's a diehard Virginia fan. He's like, what was going through your mind after you made that TD catch? Were you like, oh, it's on now?
Yeah, I kind of knew we were, we already were there with the mindset that, this is Florida State, great team, great program history, but we're trying to come in and do something special. So, from the beginning, we never backed down. And that play kind of, solidified in my mind, and we can play with these guys. And, ultimately that's what we did, and we came out with the victory in the end.
Yeah, man, that game was one of the all-time classic Virginia football games for sure, because Virginia had never beaten Florida State at Florida State, and it was such a tightly contested game throughout the game. And how about that tackle that Chase Minifield made, chasing down Burt Reed from behind? Yeah. Oh my God!
Yeah, that was probably the most important play of the game, and I love Chase to death, but everybody knows that he wasn't the most fleet-footed. But he just wanted it more than anybody on the field on that particular play. And he saved the touchdown. I think our defense ended up getting a turnover, and that just changed the course of the game. And that play kind of summarized the mentality of that Virginia football team. It's just like yeah, we may not be as big or as fast or or as strong as that Florida State team, but today in this moment we want it more than you, so we're gonna do whatever it takes.
Yeah, man, he really turned on the afterburners for that one. I mean, the way that recovery speed to catch him at that point was absolutely incredible. Rewatching those highlights. Another game I want to talk about, Perry, the 2011 Miami game. Talk to me about that screen pass that you took to the house, dude.
Yeah, I mean, that was another big game. And it's just like, it was one of those. It was actually, I was actually motioned out of the backfield, so it was a design pass play, but just similar to the Florida State catch, and that exact catch is one of those plays where me and Rocco, we knew like when the play is called, the ball is coming to me. So with that type of non-hesitation and just understanding that I'm going to get this ball, so I have to do whatever I need to do to get open. That made it a lot better. So yeah, we did a great job at being on the same page. I motioned out of the backfield, and the linebacker came out wide with me one-on-one as we had been practicing it that week. And we knew if I got a one-on-one matchup with a middle linebacker, that wasn't going to be pretty. So I just came in, ran a slant route, got a step on him, caught it. Took it. I think it was 78 yards to the house.
Something like that. You also had a TD pass in that game to Tim Smith. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah. So I kind of pride myself on having a decent arm. So, and that was my old high school teammate, and we had been repping in practice, and every time I would hit him in stride. And we knew again I was having a pretty decent game. They was probably going to try to key in on me a little bit, and I took the jab step to the left, came out to the right, tried to sell the run as much as I could to get that safety to come down. And the receiver stop blocked a little bit and just took off. And as soon as I saw him take off, I knew I had it. And I just kind of had to, put the ball on the money. I try not to think about it too much because, even though it's a high pressure situation, you don't want to approach it that way because that's when the mistakes happen. So I just pretended that we were still in practice and I'm just having fun with it, tossing the ball around. And I hit him in stride.
Talk to me about the Superman nickname, Perry. I don't really know. Like I never really learned like where that came from. Was it just guys watching you in the weight room? Like, God, this dude's like crazy strong for a guy his size.
So it kind of all came together by the time I got to college. Like growing up, Superman was always my favorite hero. So when I was in the 11th grade, I think I got a tattoo of the Superman logo on my shoulder. And my high school coach put in a package called the Superman package. So I had my own special package in high school called Superman. And then I guess when I got to college, guys would see the tattoo and thought that I was strong and all these kind of things. And, they just ran with it. So obviously I didn't, obviously I loved it, because again, that was the hero that I wanted to be growing up as a little kid. And just kind of, the way I approach things was almost like I try to see it as like a Superman effort. Like I'm always trying to do the right thing and work as hard as possible and help out as many people as I can. So again, as I got to college, it kind of just wrapped itself up, like came full circle. And Superman name has stuck ever since. I still have teammates that will call me every once in a while. It's still Superman, or a few of them even showing it up to just Soup. They'll just call me Soup. So yeah, it's been a fun ride with that nickname.
That's funny, man. Talk to me about your 2008 season with Oscar Smith. Looking back at your high school stats, Perry, pretty surprised, to be honest. I'm curious to hear about your recruitment process and if you were surprised that you didn't get more scholarship offers. I know you were small, and that was a big thing that a lot of teams overlooked you on. But man, dude, you're all-time leading tackler at Oscar Smith. You rushed for over 1,800 yards your senior year, 30 touchdowns. You put up some numbers, dude.
Yeah. I was under recruited. Man, I played with some great players, like 4 stars and 5 stars. Guys were going to. I think everybody knows Phil Sims. He went to Alabama. We also had our 4 starting receivers went to Maryland. Tim Smith came to Virginia with me, Marshall, and UNC. Like 4 starting receivers at one time. Defensive tackle go to Penn State. My other inside linebacker went to Tennessee. Outside linebacker went to Temple. A cornerback went to Syracuse. So I played with a bunch of guys who were getting a lot of notoriety. And with me being, a 5'6", 170-pound middle linebacker, I'm just out of position at that point. And before my senior year, I hadn't played running back. Like I was a linebacker and I was a fullback. So with having those positions, you would think, okay, the guys at the next level at those positions are 6 foot plus, 220, 230 pounds. I'm nowhere near that. But I always approached the game as though I was the biggest on the field. So I think that's kind of where my recruitment took a little slip. But a few schools were still able to kind of see my value and would come in and offer me. I think that my first offer was Boston College maybe, and then the Navy, and then UVA. But they all wanted. I got recruited as a safety, and even when I got to UVA, I was gonna start off as a safety. They asked me to play cornerback at the when I first started camp, but I know my ability. And
right.
Cornerback wasn't a position that I thought that I would be able to thrive in. So I asked Coach Grove, can I move over to running back? And he was like, well, I'll let you try it at the beginning of camp. If you don't do well, we're just going to move you back to defense. And I started the depth at the started camp on the depth chart my true freshman year as the number 7 running back on the depth chart. And by the 9th game of the season, I had worked my way up to number 2.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Man, I had no idea they started you out as DB. That's a really cool story, man. I never even knew about that one. Like, God, you had the ability to shake guys in the open field, dude. Man, watching your 2011 highlight tape, especially, got the way you would shake guys in the open field, dude. Is that just something like you always had, like playing football growing up?
It actually wasn't. It's just something that I knew that I had to work on, like especially going over to the offensive side of the ball. I knew, in college that year, 5'7", 185 pounds. I'm not going to be able to run through linebackers. I can put a shoulder down and get tough yards, but that's not going to be my game. My game is going to be making people miss in a phone booth. So I just rep every single day in practice. In the all season, I knew I had to work on my speed and agility because that's where I was going to make my money, by making guys miss. So again, it's something that I definitely had to really work on and improve as best I could. And that's kind of where I excelled, because that's what I had to make the main part of my game.
Yeah, man. On your 2011 highlight tape, one of the jukes that really jumped out at me, Southern Miss, dude. Some guy tried to meet you in the hole. Like you get through the gap and the guy's ready for you in the hole. And You absolutely shake him out of his shoes, dude. Walk me through that play.
Yeah. So it was it's crazy that I remember that play so vividly. It was a 40 zone, so it was a inside zone play to the right, and if everybody crashes to the right, then I have the option to cut it back to the left. And the hole was wide open. It was just me and him. And even in that moment, I just remember my position coach saying, like, in order for you to be a successful running back and to play running back at Virginia, you have to be able to make guys miss on one. You can't make one guy miss, then it's only so much success we can have as a running back. So when I cut it back and I saw him there, and I knew I was going I wasn't going too fast, but I knew I was going at a decent speed that he would have to bite on my first move, because I think it was like third and short or fourth and short, something really short distance, and I only needed 1 or 2 yards. So I cut it back, and I saw him kind of converging on me, and I stuck him inside. As soon as I knew he was going to bite, as soon as he bit, I went outside, got the first down, and fun fact, I actually got tackled by Jamie Collins, who's in the NFL, who has had a great career. So it was kind of fun playing against him, talking a little bit of trash to that guy as well. So.
Yeah, dude. Jamie Collins, great player. I'm flipping back and forth here a lot, but man, watching your Oscar Smith highlight tape, dude, there is a play. They have a section on that highlight tape called special teams hitters. Dude, there is I think it's a punt return where it's like a reverse. It's the guy he fakes the reverse. And you end up coming down and just smashing this guy on a peel back. Well, you absolutely destroyed this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of, something that I was known for in high school. If I was in high school today, I would have been thrown out of probably 5 games throughout the course of the season. So luckily it was legal back then. But again, I was just out to kind of inflict as much pain on my opponents as possible, and ultimately to set up my teammates to be successful. So I knew he was going to be trailing. They usually are, because we had really good returners, and they were usually going to break at least 1 or 2 a game and get pretty decent yardage. And it was always going to be somebody who was chasing after them, who wasn't going to be looking for anybody else around except for the punt returner. So I saw my opportunity, and I kind of took it. I kind of feel bad now looking back on it, but it was all fun back then.
Oh, I don't think there's anything to feel bad about, man. That's football, I mean, like you said, man, like nowadays they'd make it illegal, but dude, fans like me and a lot of diehard football fans, that's what we come to the stadium to see,
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't feel bad. I mean, that's part of the game, That's what you sign up for when you put on the chin strap and get between the lines.
There you go.
Talk to me about your coaching career, Perry. I know you were coaching at Albemarle a little bit, and now you're currently the head coach at Glen Allen, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I started right after college when the NFL didn't work out. I immediately went into coaching. Coached 1 year at Albemarle, and then the next 3 at Charlottesville High School. So we decided, we didn't want to move all the way back to the Tidewater area, but we wanted to kind of get out of the small Charlottesville city, which we love, but we just wanted to kind of grow elsewhere. So me and my wife decided to move to Richmond, which is a good medium point for both cities. And I got hired as a defensive coordinator at Glen Allen High School. And after 2 years, after 2 years of me being the defensive coordinator, the head coach stepped down, and I interviewed for the head coaching position and got it. I kind of always seen myself as eventually being a head coach, but I didn't think it would come at the age of 28. I thought you always see coaches who are like in their 40s or maybe even 50s. I didn't anticipate it coming so early, but I was glad that it did. And when the opportunity presented itself, I felt like it was for me. My players were ecstatic. They loved they loved me as a coach, and I was just wanted to get in as fast as I could and just try to, make a name for myself in this area.
Yeah, that's awesome, Perry. What are some I'm curious, Perry, who are some coaches and some schemes like that you particularly like more than others? I'm curious as to like what schemes and concepts like do you really like following?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I learned coming in, over the years as an assistant coach,
Mhm.
I've seen coaches who did it, I've seen coaches who didn't do it, but one of the biggest things that I learned is you have to adapt to your personnel. I know some coaches can be, bullheaded and say, "This is what I've been running for 30 years, so I'm just going to continue to run it." Not knowing that you have to adapt to the players that you have. So I wouldn't say there's one particular, scheme offensively or defensively that I like that I like the most. I take a bit from everybody and just kind of see how it can work for me. If it does, then great. I implement it, see if it works for the kids. If it works for them, then we keep it. If not, then we shove it out the back door. Um, so I just try to take bits and pieces from a lot of guys, on all levels, the professional level, college level, even, the high school level. And I really credit like most of my, you know, the way my style of coaching, in high school to my former high school head coach, Richard Morgan, who's currently down in Georgia, coaching at Marietta. They were the 7A state champions in Georgia. He was the best I've ever seen, and if I could have took him with me to college, I would have. But I just take up bits and pieces from a lot of these guys, a lot of the big name guys who I know have done their due diligence and they've done the work and they've studied and figured out what works for them. And then I try to take a bits and pieces from everybody.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, Perry, and I can tell that you've learned pieces of knowledge that some coaches just never learn. You can't be married to a scheme. You got to be tailor the scheme to the personnel that you have. That's brilliant, man. Like I can't
Yep.
tell you how many coaches I watch. It drives me insane watching coaches
Mhm.
that are just stubborn and they don't want to change the scheme because that player doesn't fit it. So it's like
Yeah.
fitting a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly.
Um,
Yep.
talk to me about college players getting paid, Perry. I want to hear your thoughts on that. That's something that I've gotten to talk to a lot of the guys that have come on the podcast about. What are your thoughts on college players getting paid? Personally, I am fully in support of college players getting paid,
Mhm.
especially after talking to a lot of guys that have come on this podcast. I mean, some guys that, get a D1 scholarship, it just don't come from much. So,
Yeah.
$3,000 a month, I feel like is something that would be reasonable for every player that has a scholarship to give them spending money, gas, eat, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think, Perry?
Yeah. So I definitely think there should be some type of compensation for the guys who are out there doing the grunt work, for these different universities. And some people I've heard the argument like, well, they're selling my jersey in a bookstore, and no, my name might not be on the jersey, but obviously it's my number. Like the team that I'm playing for, everybody knows when they go to the bookstore and they see, for instance, the number 33 on a Virginia jersey. They know who that is. They know it's Perry Jones. So when they buy their jersey, they're buying it to represent me, as well as the university. So I definitely think there should be some type of compensation because even my own personal experience, even when I first got to UVA, they did. I guess they gave out Pell Grants. Guys who financially could qualify for Pell Grants, you get one in the and before the semester and after. But it was something wrong with my paperwork that took an entire year to get correct. So I didn't get any Pell Grant money from the time I got to UVA to the next summer going into my second year. So I didn't get any money from the school, and I couldn't pay my phone bill. I couldn't. I had to be careful about how many times I went out to go grab a burger from the corner. So I had to, I kind of struggle in that area and just thinking about, I'm definitely not the only player that was in that same situation, and just think about how that money could have potentially helped me. And it's a good, it's a good way to help players to understand how to deal with finances. Like, you can't just say, work, don't get any money, and then go out and, after your career is over, and start your life and get a job and understand how to deal with finances if you haven't had any up until you're 22, 23 years old when you leave college. So I think, with that, with the compensation of the players, I think every school should have financial classes for the guys. So when they leave out, they know what to do with the money. They know to invest. They know to put part of it, part of your a percentage of your money away to in your savings account for an emergency fund. Like, those are the type of things that I didn't even learn until the last few years. So I'm just thinking, imagine if I learned that at 18 and 19 years old, how much it would have helped me today.
Yeah, I agree, Perry. I mean, finance classes can really help everyone, those are definitely really good tips. And, like, I'm a diehard fan, and I got your poster and the program on my wall. It's like, how cool would that be if not only, let's say I could buy like a $30 poster, like signed by you, like when you were in college, not only would it be able to support you, but it would give like diehard fans like myself some more memorabilia,
Yeah. And I still see, every once in a while, I still see a jersey signed by me, or, like a poster or a helmet that I signed in college that's on eBay. A signed helmet is going for $300 that I signed back in 2012. I'm like, I don't get any of that. But yeah, I kind of understand that, and I think, obviously, I think one argument that I keep hearing is, well, do you give the star player more than the walk on? Like, no, I think it should be equal all the way around the board, because again, all the guys on the team are going out there and sacrificing their bodies for the university. I think everybody should be compensated in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I agree, Perry. And I think having an equal amount of payment for all the players is a great idea, because once you start paying guys more, and that, I don't know, you can divide a team really quick that way. And not only that, you never even know. Like, a guy might decide to like sit out, be like, well, I'm not playing, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it could get messy really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Who were some of your favorite players growing up, Perry?
So I guess I had different players at kind of different areas of my life, and like, I have three of my top players, and ironically, all of their last name is Sanders, which is kind of crazy now that I think about it. So as a young kid, maybe 4, 5, 6 years old, Deion Sanders was my favorite player. Then I fell in love with Barry Sanders, who I kind of tried to model my game after when I got to college. And when I was in high school, my favorite player was Bob Sanders, defensive back for the Indianapolis Colts. Again, I really love those guys, just their style of play, and different sides of the ball. But those are my three favorite players, from the time I was little until high school. So I really idolize those guys and try to model my game after them.
Yeah, dude. Barry Sanders, my all-time favorite football player too, man. I have a huge Oklahoma State football painting of Barry Sanders, and I have a huge Detroit Lions fat head of Barry, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love the speech, when his dad introduced him into the Hall of Fame. He's like, the second greatest running back in NFL history.
I mean, even then, I think his dad knew what. I think his dad, thought highly of his son, but it was also another way to also, keep him humble. Like, yeah, you're going into the NFL, into the Hall of Fame, but you still have some great guys that are in front of you. And I think that's what kind of stuck out to me the most about Barry Sanders. Like, yes, he's a great football player, but how humble he was, and that I also tried to take that same approach. It's like you can still, be a great player and dominate, but have a humble, attitude about yourself. So, just don't complain, work as hard as you can, and, you will be rewarded in the end.
Yeah, I agree, Perry. Uh, the number 33 is one of my favorite numbers in Virginia football history, Perry. You know who else wore the number 33, don't you?
Jamie Sharper?
Well, yeah, him too. But Wally Sultan Lundy.
Oh, yeah. Wally Lundy. Yep. Right before me.
So you just like keeping 33 since you wore it in high school, right?
I mean, actually, it was my first number ever when I started playing rec league in the 5th grade. I actually wanted the number 32 because that was my dad's number when he played in high school. But at that time, it was like, we all stood in the line. The coach hung the jerseys up on the fence, and it was like, depending on what, when you went, you get to choose your number. So I think I was somewhere in the middle towards the end. And I was trying to get a 32. I kept looking at it. And the kid in front of me picked 32. So I was like, well, I'll just stick with 33. Kind of fell in love with it. And, from the 5th grade until I finished playing in college, I had the number 33. And, that was just my number. And, it was special to me.
Yeah, 33 is a unique football number, Perry. I feel like not that many guys wear it. That's kind of one of the reasons I like it. But you and Wally Lundy, I mean, after that, I mean, I'm in love with the number forever, man, because you guys and JB Sharper too. It has a special place in Virginia football history, love that number, man. To have two all-purpose backs like you and Wally Lundy to wear that same number, it's always going to have a special spot in Virginia football history. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
What was it like? Talk to me. What was it like having such good blocking receivers like Chris Bird and Dontrell Inman? God, those guys. Chris Bird, one of the best blocking receivers in Virginia football history, dude.
Mm-hmm. Chris Bird was my guy, man. And I love his tenacity when he would approach blocks. And I always say, like, he played receiver like a linebacker, whether he was blocking or running with the football. He wasn't, afraid to stick his face in the fan. And, seeing those guys working so hard to try to get a block to spring me open, it was much appreciated. So yeah, those guys did their thing on the outside, on the edge. Even Dontrell Inman as well. They again not the biggest guys, but that mentality that we try to have as a team. Like I don't care who's in front of me. I'm going to go as hard as I can because I want to see my teammates succeed. So still to this day, I'm really appreciative of those guys.
Absolutely, Perry. Talk to me about the 2011 Virginia offensive line. That offensive line, the 2011 Virginia football offensive line, the best Virginia football offensive line of this decade. No question about it, man. Though that was an absolutely stacked offensive line. Talk to me about that group of guys and how good the chemistry was between all of them that year.
Yeah, we had a great offensive line. Like those guys, man, they were a close, tight-knit group. Like everybody, if you play college football, like two things. Offensive linemen, those guys stick together. And number two, they are nuts. Those guys are nuts. And fortunately I had the opportunity to run behind four of those guys who had a decent career in the NFL. Morgan Moses, who's still there. Luke Bowenko, who played, I think, 5 or 6 years in the NFL. Ode Abushi, who's still playing. I think he's playing for the Detroit Lions now. And Austin Pastor, who played a good amount in the NFL. And I was fortunate enough to run behind those guys. And after the game, I was against a few opponents. They would say like, "Man, I couldn't find you behind there." And it's like, well, when you're 5'7", 5'8", and you got 6'6", 6'8", 6'5", 6'6" in front of you, then yeah, it's going to be hard. But those guys did a really great job at providing me with open holes, and we tried to work together. They tried to make me right, and I tried to make them right. So luckily, our scheme allowed us to be able to do that. Like as long as the lineman was running his feet and taking the defender where he wanted to go, then I had the opportunity to keep it play side or cut it back. So we just fed off of each other, and anytime I had a big run or a big catch or a touchdown, those guys were always the first one to greet me. So none of it would have took place without those guys.
One thing I've always wanted to ask player Perry, talk to me. What does it feel like when you are going over the pile on the goal line, fully extended, like a goal line dive over everyone?
Yeah. It was, something that it was actually designed that way. The offensive coordinator, he knew I had a good leaping ability, and I wouldn't be afraid to do it either. But we knew, like, if we could get down there 1 or 2 yards, I would be able to get over those guys. So the offensive line were told, as soon as the ball is snapped, you cut block. And if we can get those guys, if we can get their hands down and get them down just a little bit lower, I would be able to go over top of them. So that was definitely one of my favorite plays, and it was just another way to kind of solidify the Superman name, flying over the line. So.
Yeah, dude, it's definitely one of the cooler things to watch in football, man. I mean, it's got to be wild. Like, I don't know if you've seen the clip. There's a clip of Garrett Schrader from Mississippi State. He does a helicopter, like when he went full extension, gets helicoptered in midair. Like, God,
you gotta know when to do it and when to not. It's definitely dangerous, but if you can kind of execute it, then you're good money. But if you do it at the wrong time when there's too many players around, or you misjudge the jump, then it's gonna turn out bad.
It's funny, man. Talk to me. One thing I got to talk to Chris Bird about, Perry, was the Chick-fil-A Bowl. My man, the Chick-fil-A Bowl to this day was one of the best. Like 3 days before that game, Perry, Virginia fans in the downtown Atlanta Marriott Marquis were chanting, "Let's go Wahoos." And they were giving us high fives in the hotel. To this day, Perry, like one of the best atmospheres I've ever seen in any Virginia event, man. I cannot tell you like how good the vibes were. It's something about our fans in Atlanta, man. I don't know how to explain it, but man, they love Virginia football.
Yeah, I mean, they came down and they really like supported us, and it was kind of crazy to see how many fans actually stayed in our exact hotel. And when we came out, and just to depart for the game and to see all those people like down in the lobby and just rooting us on, it was amazing. And the way the hotel was set up, it was so tall, and it's like it seemed like the Let's Go Wahoos was bouncing off every ball, bouncing off the ceiling. It was just really, really echoing and vibrating the entire place. So that's definitely a moment that I can kind of think back on and relish in, because that was great. I think we had some great fans, and it was just a fun time the entire week.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like I'll never forget that week being down in Atlanta. I think our fans were so fired up. It was one fact that Virginia hadn't been to a bowl in a few years, and we were just so excited to be back in and it was a big bowl game too, because Auburn had just been in a national title game the previous year. So it was just a wild atmosphere too. That was in the Georgia Dome too, right?
It was.
Dude, the Georgia Dome, I hated to see that go. Didn't they implode the Georgia Dome? I think they destroyed it.
Yeah, they did, and built a brand new one.
That Georgia Dome, man, I loved being in that football stadium. That was just a fantastic football venue. Like, it was just electric. I was in the Georgia Dome for the 95 Peach Bowl when Petey Allen returned the kick all the way back for the game winner, dude. That was talk about our fans going nuts, man. When he's Petey Allen's like tiptoeing down the sideline.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, dude. A memory I have from Petey Allen. He was at one of the Virginia spring games, and he said, they asked him, when was the hardest anyone ever hit you? He said, Anthony Poindexter in practice.
Yeah, Coach Dex, man, like, you know, I remember actually watching him play when I was like really young, and obviously I didn't know I was going to Virginia then, but I was just like, man, this dude is a beast.
Yeah, you know, Marcus Hagan said watching Poindexter with the visor and the finger tape, he said he looked like a trained killer out there.
He did. He did.
They got that. They have that old school. I forget what year that poster was. They have a really cool picture of him with the shaded visor on in one of the old Virginia posters. It's absolutely epic, dude. I forget what year that was, but it's a classic poster.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite throwback NFL uniforms, Perry?
The throwback NFL uniform?
Yeah, like the Houston Oilers sky blue ones.
Yeah, I think I really like those. I think they could, I think they can bring those back today and do some like, special like combinations with those. But, I'm always like a kind of a classic guy. And I saw that the Atlanta Falcons just chose their their new uniforms for the season. But I even like those their throwbacks, when Deion was playing. Just something about just the classic look, like not too much. Now they got like the faded numbers, like, that's not all that important to me. So I don't really care about the flashiness, but just a nice cream, crisp look, and red and black is like my favorite combination of colors. So I would like to see them wear their throwback uniforms a little bit more often.
Dude, and I gotta tell you, some of my favorite Virginia football uniforms, when you guys broke out those orange helmets in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, dude, I lost my mind. I was like, dude, those are so sick.
Yeah. And they actually, I think the day before the game, when we had our team picture in the Georgia Dome, we didn't know that we were going to wear them. But they, doing our team picture, Coach London, kind of snuck the helmet out, and he showed it to us, and the guys just went nuts because it was totally unexpected. Like nobody had there was no inkling of us getting new helmets up until that point. So the guys were really just excited to kind of see some change, and that from that point forward, they kind of integrated it more into the uniforms, to go from the different color helmets.
Yeah, dude, those orange helmets were classic, especially with you rocking this shaded visor. I love talking to guys about the visors. Perry, did you wear the visor just for swag?
Yeah, it was mostly for the swag. I just remember thinking back to when I was younger. My favorite college team growing up was the Miami Hurricanes, and I remember watching guys like Sean Taylor with the tinted visor, but he had the rainbow.
Oh yeah,
I wanted that, but that was it was prohibited by the time that I was able to wear a visor. So that was kind of the closest thing to it, and it was just it definitely set the swag off right.
Yeah, dude, the shaded visor was always one of my favorite looks. It automatically makes any football player look like such a beast.
Yep. There you go.
All right, Perry. Well, that's all I got the time for, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, my man.
Yes, sir. No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for all you did for Virginia football, my man.
Wouldn't change it for the world.
Take care, man.
Yes, sir.
See ya.
listening to the Flow Theory Podcast. You can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and TuneIn.